On this episode of the Maverick Makers podcast, I welcome a former colleague. His name is Steven Branco. He has emerged as a media mogul. He is the chief creative officer and editor-in-chief of Stamina Group. He digs into his whole media journey, talks about travel, fashion, mental health, and really gives it all. He talks about investing in yourself and the importance of that. You are absolutely going to love this episode if you love things creative, content, and just about going for it. Let's go. Welcome back to another episode of the Maverick Makers podcast. I am so excited to welcome Steven Branco to the show. He is the Chief Creative Officer and Editor-in-Chief of Stamina Group. Steven and I know each other from another life, literally. He was so fantastic. I knew him way back when as a marketing coordinator. I don't know if I'm giving away secrets or not, but he was amazing. I'm so glad we, kept in touch. And now he's blown up and created a media empire. I'm completely in awe, and I can't wait to talk about his amazing journey. So welcome to the show, Steven.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So let's start with your Maverick journey. So if we can just high level talk about maybe the day where, we knew each other as a marketing coordinator, and then, how you've built this amazing empire.
Yeah, I mean, what a journey. I can't believe it's been like almost 15 years since that time. But I think as we were talking earlier, at that time, I was really just trying to, out of school, sink my teeth into building my career. Didn't quite know what I wanted. I mean, I feel like everyone from that era, and looking back, is always like, I didn't really know what I wanted coming out of school, right? And what I did know is that I was super creative, loved fashion, liked to tell stories, and just needed to figure out where I could make the most money doing it, to be honest. And I was very fortunate to be surrounded by an incredible team and leaders in the organization. And funny enough, it was our very own president, like my boss's boss, that one day said to me, like, "Boy, you work too hard to be working for somebody else, and you need to get into building your own business out." And it really got me thinking, like, for so many years I had invested in others and in all this work that I was doing, and never really believed in myself and being able to do it for myself. And I think it was at that moment that I really had that moment to say, okay, yeah, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to invest in myself and believe in my craft and kind of take that plunge. And luckily, he gave me the stability to say, I'm going to give you your first contract. So, my employer became my client, and I was able to kind of like go to the other side of the fence and start working for them freelance and while looking for other clients and working on other things. And I had just finished a new media program at George Brown, and was kind of getting my sinking my teeth into new design projects and whatnot. And yeah, and then fast forward, I ended up taking a media internship at GQ, and moved to New York on a 3-year student visa, which is super cool. And that's where I really kind of sunk my teeth into the fashion space and the media space. And hence, like, I had been freelancing for a long time, starting in journalism as early as my high school years, but never really saw an income potential for it. But GQ really kind of opened my eyes for that, and that was great. I got a really good taste, and then I kind of ended up freelancing for many different organizations, which was super cool, but kind of kept it at bay and took on other projects. Ended up actually going back into finance marketing because I got offered a really cool project for a few years. I did a tech startup role in like the big data social media space, which was super cool. And then what I really realized is that I was really good on the digital side and marrying the creative, but passionate about the storytelling. So I feel like that really set me apart. It allowed me to not only storytell from that artistic perspective that's often used in print, but utilize the tools that I had learned as a digital marketer for the many years on the SEO side on how to make sure that my content not only got to the people that came to our site, but really penetrated the SEO on the search engine platforms so that we can attract new readers. And that was something that a lot of my editors were saying is that, oh, your content performed so well. It got this, and that. And I really took pride in that. It's like, how do I best optimize my content that it not only reads well to the reader that's already on the platform, but is going to answer those questions and penetrate those search terms that was going to attract new readers to the platform. And fast forward, then I met a future partner that brought me into Swagger magazine, which I was able to kind of like help grow and develop. And if there's anything that I really, now looking back, was good at, was building these brands and looking for ways to not only um, help them stand on their own 2 feet, but monetize them and grow them into something more than just a platform, but make them a community that offers value to both sides. And if they're in some way, shape, or form can develop a monetization strategy, which, even in my marketing days, in finance, like we built like a Canadian mothers resource platform where it was like a blog for moms, but then we developed it where we would work with partners to offer coupons and samples to these mothers, and they would sign up for this email list, and then we would sell those emails to our sales agents to reach out to them to market our services, which new moms were like their core clients. So and then that was later sold for like $2 million. So I was like, okay, I'm doing this for other people. How do I do that for myself? So we were able to do that with Swagger. And something that was interesting for me was I remember my then partner saying, I don't want this platform to just, look and feel Canadian, because I feel like that's going to limit us from a potential from an audience perspective and a client perspective. And I said, yeah, listen, I think the best way to do that is to write as if you're speaking to an American audience, because Canadians, like, we don't really care. We're not as picky from a reading perspective if there's an extra vowel or there isn't, in with Canadian English, but Americans do. They notice it and they don't resonate with it. So I'm like, if you look at the statistics, a lot of the media that Canadians consume is American, so I said, if I'm able to disguise the content written in AP, Associate Press format and style guideline, but have the stories be very Canadian influenced, like featuring Canadians and really championing those Canadian stories mixed in with stuff that obviously resonates to Americans as well. I'm creating a platform that allows us to celebrate Canadians and put them at the forefront and allow all people across North America to be exposed to these stories without limiting us to writing in a Canadian style format. So, and that did very well. It was a tough sell at first because, as I'm sure a lot of these larger brands, they have American teams and Canadian teams, and a lot of times they don't talk and budgets are separate. So we would go in and they'd be like, but your address is Canadian, but your website looks American. So it was often like we had to figure out how we were positioning that. We later then realized that we just created an American company and a Canadian company with two separate addresses, and to make us look more of like an international company, and grow the brand that way. And then we were ended up like, never forget the first time I saw our first print issue, which we later developed at Barnes and Noble. And like, that was a huge moment for me to see it like sitting, right beside GQ and Esquires of the world, which is super cool. And being celebrated for what it was, which is a platform that really celebrated men, and it wasn't just like, your average issue back then that had, the Sports Illustrated models and bikini models in it, but really kind of highlighted fashion and things that a lot of these magazines now do. But at the time, it really differentiated us, and but also talked about sensitive subjects. Like I remember one of our most popular threads on the site was like um, talking about male pattern baldness, and how to deal with it or what are signs of it, and stuff like that, which was such a faux pas almost, for men to talk about. But we were like, this is something that we're seeing in the data that is such a huge subject matter for people. And I was like, let's get behind it. And then we also talked about like erectile dysfunction and, the blue pill and other stuff like that. And for men not to be embarrassed about it, but rather just like embrace it and incorporate it into their sex life and stuff like that. So I feel like that's what really started to set us apart. And fast forward, I ended up exiting that business and then decided to fully kind of go out on my own, get rid of the partners, and just really and truly believe in myself. I ended up acquiring Viva Vibe and building that into what it is today. Originally, it was a video restaurant guide, and then it was built out into more of like a lifestyle publication, and then I kind of turned it into more of what it is now, into like a lifestyle and life and culture magazine. We really do celebrate Canadians, primarily out of Toronto, but building it into more of a national platform, and just really creating trendy, sexy editorials and creative, which we weren't seeing from a digital platform at that time. Everybody was just creating like social content, like basic social content, and these very simplistic kind of restaurant shoots where it's like food at the table and whatnot. And I was coming in and saying like, let's bring in models and do like, high contrast editorials and whatnot, and give things like a fashion flair, which was very kind of like against the grain of what everybody was doing. And people were like, "Oh, this guy's mad. He's gonna run out of money." And I was just like, I think this is a way to just really have fun. And I'll never forget. I did this one editorial with, if you're familiar, there's a restaurateur in Toronto called Chef Nui Regular, and she runs Pie Restaurant, and she was blowing up, and I was like, I don't want to do a photo shoot with this woman to make her feel like the superstar that she is. She's often seen in the kitchen, like in her uh, kitchen jacket or chef jackets and whatnot, and I want to give her that glam moment. I knew that she loved basketball and she loved to dress up and whatnot. So we gave her like this fashion editorial moment. We brought in designer stuff from like New York, and I hired a nail tech artist and a stylist, and we fully gave her a full glam up. And I remember like minutes before we got in front of the camera, she just like breaks down in tears. And I was like, "What's wrong, chef?" And she's like, "This is my dream, like to have this happen." And that really touched me. And it was that moment where I was like, this is the kind of stuff that I want to be doing that truly makes an impact in people's lives. And fast forward from that, every single person in those first 2 years of us doing our cover features for View the Vibe has gone on to achieve greatness in some way, shape, or form. And I don't want to say that we were that reason, but we found them at that moment that I saw the potential in them and where they were going, and then put that spotlight that allowed people to see exactly what they were doing. Like I remember this one chef that we featured, he had just started his TikTok page, and it was like blowing up. He was getting like 40 million views on videos of him slicing or whatever. And I was like, this guy's gonna go on to do crazy stuff. Fast forward, he now has like 18 world records for the fastest chopping. He has a master class through the masterclass organization. He's been called like the goat of slicing or chopping. He was a top 3 on MasterChef Canada. So it's like all of these people have really kind of gone on, and I gave them that opportunity to really showcase that talent, which was amazing, and their story. And I've also made it kind of my point to celebrate minorities. So one year we did this huge feature for like women in business and giving them their spotlight. And then another year was like the most powerful Asians in Canada. And then another year was for the Black community and the most powerful Black entrepreneurs in Canada. And that makes me happy because I know that they're underrepresented in the Canadian media space and they're not often celebrated for who they are. And I always remember this conversation that I had, I think, with Leilani, where we were talking about like, why do we always refer to the powerful women as like the boss babe? They're not just boss babes, they're bosses,
Mhm.
and that resonated with me. And and that was the thing. So anytime that we do any of our more broad lists or features, I'm not just categorizing these people as the best of their ethnicity or minority group. They're ranking within the best of everyone within that group, whether it be entrepreneurs or restaurateurs or whatever, right? But making sure that there's representation there, which often gets lost in the shuffle. And yeah, and here I am today. I mean, fast forward through COVID, we ended up launching two other platforms. One's Gents Post, one's Wand Reader. Gents Post is a men's lifestyle magazine. I mean, we talked a little bit about it earlier, the whole concept there. And the reason I went with the Post was I wanted it to be a little bit more, less magazine flashy and more educational and be a resource, a guide for men for their day-to-day lifestyle. And our tagline is redefining masculinity. And originally it was redefining masculinity for the modern men. And then I thought, okay, I think let's drop the gender constructs and say like redefining masculinity, period, because people of all genders have can identify with masculinity, and I didn't want to kind of pigeonhole us to that one category. So, and you'll see like in our features or even on our podcast, which we later developed, we've had men, women, and non-binary individuals on, and we really do celebrate and provide resources. And we don't just say that we identify as such; like we actually live and breathe it, and incorporate that into everything that we do, from like sharing masculine targeting beauty techniques and makeup trends and whatnot, because the reality is that there is a demand out there and we just have to carve out a category for it, because it's all just like men or women's. But it's like the reality is I think there are you know cis men and cis women who might identify as either or gender, or um masculine targeting style or beauty or whatnot, and vice versa. So as you can see, it's not easy to explain because we're all still learning what are the ways to explain certain things or how you would name it or reference it. And I'm not perfect, and we learn as we go. But what I will do and continue to champion is how do we continue to push the envelope and create a space for these people, and allow us to expand our horizons and mindset around this, and not just follow what has been done in the past just because it's the easiest thing to do. I like to feel uncomfortable. I like to push the envelope and step outside my comfort zone. And I encourage everyone on my team to do so as well. If you're telling a story and you're a little uncomfortable about the direction that it's going, then that's a good thing. That means that you're on the right path. So that's something that I truly take very and have a lot of passion behind.
That's a heck of a story. My goodness. And holy moly, you've done so much. Wow. Amazing. So what do you think out of all of this? What do you think your proudest hell yes maverick moment has been to date?
That's always a hard one because without shooting my own horn, we have done quite a bit. I would definitely say one of my most incredible pinch me moments were just after the pandemic. We did this big campaign with a client, and as a thank you, they offered us a billboard at Dundas Square. So we had the full wrap around digital billboard above the Shoppers Drug Mart, which is a huge deal. And we were there at Christmas time, the busiest time of the year. And we got to highlight all 12 of our covers from that year, which spanned everything from like Andre DeGrasse to Julie Black and everyone in between. And it was, I just stood there kind of in awe that like I can't believe that not only was our work on such a huge billboard in space, but the fact that someone felt so touched by our work to be able to offer us that, which was incredibly moving. And even though my face was not on it, which I would have cringed to have, our work was there, and that meant even more to me. And to see all of our covers stand there and some in tears, seeing their face on that billboard and feeling like they never thought that they would make it onto something like that was pretty incredible.
Wow, that must have been a heck of a moment. Good for you. That's incredible. Amazing. Congrats. How do you find those stories, like those amazing people that, you had mentioned, the chef or like how do you get around that? How do you find these people?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that a huge part of it is always having your ear to the ground, right? Like you have to be in the trenches to be able to see it. So on the hospitality side, like we're going out to the restaurants where, I, I'm dining out probably 6 out of 7 nights a week, from restaurant to restaurant to party. I mean, the PR media space, there's always an event going on somewhere. And I try my best to be out as much as I can to meet those people, be exposed to new people, new circles, and hear what people have to say, not just what I would say about somebody, but I want to hear about like what do their peers have to say about this individual. And that usually is a really good indicator for me. Um, but also what the general public says. Like I look at the reviews. I'm also reading about like what are other people talking about as well. Being a big data nerd, I'm such a research junkie. I'm constantly like reading and looking up news stories and um searching on Instagram to see like what new concepts are coming. The beauty is that now, having been doing this for a few years now, we have a really good network. So, for example, on the restaurant side, like we have connections with a lot of the builders and interior designers and whatnot in the hospitality space. So we often know when a new restaurant or hotel is just being conceptualized, we start to hear about it. So that kind of keeps us ahead of the curve. Same thing in the fashion space, like going out to the shows, not just the flashy stuff for like the Louis Vuittons of the world, but for example, Fashion Art Toronto, which is more of that like up and coming fashion platform in Toronto, getting to know who are those designers that are just getting their feet wet in the industry, because a lot of times they're the ones that go on and then become like the right hand to the creative director of Canada Goose or you name it. So it's establishing those relationships and ensuring that we provide value to them and that we're listening to their stories very early on, so that as our relationship grows or as that individual grows within their career, they don't forget about us and they keep kind of like updating us and we stay in touch and kind of stay within similar circles and whatnot. And that definitely helps. But also for me, not always just be enticed by what is positioned as like the best or the strongest or the most powerful, I mean, let's face it, we can probably both agree that like there's a handful of organizations that are truly the monopoly of the businesses in Canada. They don't change very much from year to year. There's a very small margin that does. So you kind of have to dig deeper to see what are those smaller organizations that are having those big years. And that's what I try to look for, obviously also having an eye for minorities, wanting to celebrate them. Um, and again, looking for those sub circles within the circle of people in those communities that and see what they have to say, and are these people supporting their communities? Because a lot of times I find in my research that that is a really good indicator on someone who's on that brink of success.
Wow. What do you think the best piece of advice you've ever been given? You may have already mentioned it, but what do you think it is?
Yeah, and I have to say it's definitely Rick when he said like, believe in yourself and, don't just invest in others, but invest in yourself. And it's funny because I didn't take it as this at that time, but even later on. So when I was working at Swagger, everything that I was doing was branded around the Swagger brand. I think my Instagram was like Chief Swagger Officer, and everyone knew me as like the Swagger guy, and never really made a name for myself as Steven Branco. And like my social wasn't very big. I wasn't really promoting my personal brand. Everything was about growing the media brand. And then one day I was literally going through. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but he gave me this book when I was working there. It's the Good to Great book, and he had signed it, and in there it said that, don't forget to always invest in yourself. And that's when I had like this aha moment. I'm like, oh my God, like I took that advice once, and then it's like I forgot about it, and now I'm having that refresh moment, and it's giving me that reminder that like, okay, I need to invest in myself. And I took that as like, this is an opportunity for me to start to invest in my personal brand. And I did, and started to pivot my brand to like really putting my name forward, and looking for like media opportunities, and would do TV segments and stuff like that to really just build my name as an individual and an expert in certain areas. um and that was the best decision I could have ever made, because it now when people want to work with us, a lot of times it's because I'm associated to it, and they know the work, the level of quality that I do, and that if I'm working on it, then it has to be of a certain standards, so to speak. And I would have never been able to do that if I didn't truly believe in myself and decide to invest and build my brand.
Invest in yourself. That's advice we all need to learn. With that being said, I could talk to you all day long, but there's a lightning round that's needs to happen. So you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Okay, so whatever comes top of mind, go for it. Okay. Coffee or cocktails?
Coffee.
Oh, interesting. Most used app on your phone?
Instagram.
Okay. Carry on essential you can't live without.
Area of essential. That's a good one. Does my Nexus card count?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Fashion trend you secretly love.
I feel like my team is gonna kill me for this, but what do they call it? Like Crocs. They're so comfortable
Crocs with socks or without socks?
with socks.
Okay. All right. All right. One word to describe your 20s versus your 30s.
Jesus. Confused.
Hilarious. Dream collab. So what's your dream collab? You a brand, a celeb, or a creator?
I'm in the middle of one that is very much a dream. I can't say very much, but I'll say Apple.
Nice. Okay. Love it. When do you feel most you?
When do I feel most me? Doing things like this, where I get to talk about my story and kind of like where I've come from and what I love to do. And I can honestly say that I love what I do, and that's the reason why I'm able to do it day by day.
Love it. Hidden talent most people don't know about you.
Laundry. I'm like an expert ironer and folder.
Can come over anytime. One thing that always sparks inspiration.
Pinterest.
Okay, good one. Biggest fashion faux pas you've ever made?
Biggest fashion faux pas. Ooh. Ah, that's a tricky one. I mean, does socks and Crocs count?
I thought you said that was a good fashion trend. That's all good. I'll forgive you. It's all
It's
good.
a faux pas, but I still do it.
Yeah, there you go. It's fine. It's all good. All right. How do you want to change the world?
Oh, empowering minorities by telling their stories.
Beautiful. Last question. What's next?
Ooh, I got print on the horizon. So I
Mm.
have 3 new books within the next quarter.
Your own books.
Well, not books, but like magazines. So
Magazine.
all 3 of my titles will go to print in the next quarter.
That's very exciting. Congrats. Well, this
Thank you.
was a completely enlightening conversation. I wish we had hit the record button earlier because there was so much more juice that needed to go into this podcast. But in any case, you're always welcome back. Thank you for inspiring, for being amazing, for leading the way in media, and just being awesome. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
The Maverick Makers podcast is sponsored by Maverick Makers Content Creation Collective. We fuel your content pipeline through video, photography, design, and editorial. Let's connect to your audiences and make more sales. Learn more at maverickmakersco.com.